Entitled Sister-in-law Stole Our Money, Brother-in-law Threatened to Assault Me. If I don't let it go, so I reported him to the police. My sister-in-law, who is 55, and her lazy-ass husband, who is 57, are perpetually broke and moan about it. They have been crawling to family for more than 10 years with sob stories, asking their debts to be paid. My sister-in-law works as a physiotherapist, and her husband believes he doesn't need to apply for jobs because he is too old and of a darker skin tone to be hired. Their family's debt is already in the six figures. My sister-in-law consistently responds that she has back problems, and her husband has poor knees, is over 50, is black, and there are no jobs for them when questioned why they wouldn't work. Which is completely untrue, as I was personally employed at the time by an employment agency and offered him numerous suitable positions, which he chose not to apply for due to the alleged low pay of 20 euros per hour. There was no need for him to stay on the sofa, as this translated into a full-time monthly paycheck of 3,200 euros before tax. Okay. My sister-in-law's birthday is approaching, and it's summertime. We're getting together for a family cookout. My sister-in-law gathers us all and delivers a speech. She wants to pay 8,000 euros for a car that she wants to buy, and then an opulent electric massage mat for an additional 3,000 euros. This time, the money would also be reimbursed. We question her about why she needs a car and how she plans to pay for gas, insurance, upkeep, and repairs. My entitled sister-in-law. My husband is an American who prefers to drive and doesn't want to use public transportation. Additionally, my spouse finds it uncomfortable and intolerable to travel by public transportation, so he requires a car to see his friends. My sister-in-law became irritated and began abusing us all when I asked how they planned to finance the automobile after the purchase price because they were broke and jobless. She had offered to pay the money back, but we were all mean to her and just wanted to put her down by asking her pointed questions that made her feel less than us. My entitled sister-in-law bursts into tears and runs into the house at the end of it. I hear my sister-in-law chatting on the phone to her husband, who wasn't at the barbecue, not weeping, since I had to go inside the house myself. My sister-in-law is moaning to him. I can hear it, saying that we are all talking down to her, tormenting and patronizing her. With a smug smirk, my sister-in-law returns to the yard, puts her phone on speaker, and extends it towards us. "Just watch it. I'm going to fuck you all up, you a-holes," shouts my brother-in-law. "Just make my wife cry and talk garbage about me behind my back. I detest every one of you. I'll fuck you all since you're all bad." My sister-in-law had been there the entire time, grinning contentedly. A bit later, on my sister-in-law's birthday, we, the doormats that we once were, want to grant my sister-in-law's greatest wish, a car, by offering her a 100 euro car sharing arrangement. Naturally, good deeds never go unpunished. She can use the 100 euro deposit that we offer her. She is the only one insured, and it is in her name. We give her an explanation of everything. She accepts responsibility for the terms of the agreement. In addition, she guarantees that after the 100 euros are deducted from her account, she will cover the associated expenses. Everything is all right. Naturally, my sister-in-law lied, neglected to update the account information, and allowed her unfaithful spouse to drive. After a few months, the cost had reached a total of 2,000 euros. As soon as I became aware of this hole in our account, I canceled our access and spoke with my sister-in-law. She doesn't answer my calls, texts, or emails, and she ignores me. However, she bemoans me to my husband, her brother, saying that his cruel and unpleasant wife doesn't feel bad for them or their car, the poor, terrible folks. POS sister-in-law. I haven't been able to sleep for 3 nights because your wife, dear brother, wants her money back. That's so outrageous. A few weeks later, her POS husband responds to my email, calling me a witch and a B-word, threatening to beat me up until I finally stopped nagging him and his wife about money. My crazy behavior suggests that I also require counseling. He keeps saying that if I don't ultimately quiet speaking, I'll soon get a few punches. It even reaches the point where this aggressor AH shows up outside our house in an attempt to frighten and intercept me in order to get me to keep quiet. Did I mention that this POS has already been involved in multiple violent encounter accusations and court cases? I call the police and report him. The rest of the family turned against me, accusing me of being foolish for bothering him. Don't poke the bear. It is said to me that I am the cause of the entire situation and that my spouse and I have enough money and that we ought to give it to the needy cousin. My mother-in-law would even go so far as to beg money from the family in order to reimburse us, greedy people, and put an end to our bothering everyone. Naturally, neither my sister-in-law nor brother-in-law apologize nor return any money. Nothing. They are fully engaged in a smear campaign against us. When I bring up the topic, my husband's family rolls their eyes at me and continues to tell me that I overreacted by complaining, saying it's all my fault. I'm even informed that I am the AH and that my response was extremely over the top. The in-laws are retaliating against you from the left, right, above, and below. The story concludes with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law making a ruckus a few months later at my father-in-law's birthday celebration, claiming that they are mistreated and bullied in the family and that we will all soon find out what that would lead to. Once more, the well-known threats from my brother-in-law. During this gathering, my brother-in-law assaults every man in the family, threatening to hit them and trying to incite my husband in particular to fight with him. My POS brother-in-law is unable to accomplish this. My other brother-in-law's wife is the only one. My POS brother-in-law just pushes to the ground since he is too scared to approach men. What a sucker. What a loser. As all of this is going on, my sister-in-law yells at me, accusing me of directly causing the family is now destroyed in chaos. I'm asked if I'm proud of my destructive work by her mockingly. Soon after, my brother-in-law yells that he will smash my face in and that he would do anything to protect his family as he storms up to me. I make a police call. Brother-in-law and sister-in-law leave the area as soon as they hear the police siren. After 3 hard years, my mother-in-law had condescendingly offered to go begging so that we would stop nagging about the money. Thus, we were able to get the money back. Although she was complaining, kicking, and shouting, we have now retrieved the money that was taken from her. She rescued her adult, untrustworthy daughters behind. Recently, my thieving sister-in-law returned to our door to claim that the way we had treated her was the reason behind her acute sadness. I wonder, is it more likely that she has a shittish, slothful husband that always picks fights with anyone he meets? She seemed to need to go to a special clinic to get treatment for her depression because I was the source of so much negativity. I advised her to get lost and to tell someone else her heartbreaking tales. In addition, my spouse informed her that he was out of time for her. I can see why the in-laws thought it was absurd and unnecessary to bring up the fact that we had been defrauded of 2,000 euros. My sister-in-law had already embezzled a staggering 20,000 euros from her own daughter. It was a college fund for her daughter. Upon being questioned where the money was, the mother simply shrugged her shoulders and replied, "I had bills to pay. My spouse is VLC, but I am now fully NC with the in-laws. I'm at last rid of those bugs. Sadly, I must state that my husband's family is garbage, everyone else being accepted. They engage in perpetrator-victim reversal, cover up thefts committed within the family, and put up with verbal, physical, and emotional abuse. I'm never going to share a table with them again." Update: this is an endless saga. My mother-in-law died not too long ago. While my mother-in-law was informed by my POS brother-in-law that he detested her, my POS sister-in-law and brother-in-law were there at the funeral. He strode into the cemetery chapel with his head held high and took a seat in the front row, defying the requests of all the mourners, aside from my POS sister-in-law, to stay away since he didn't respect the dead. Only blood relatives were permitted in the first row. My POS sister-in-law even had the audacity to yell that she was the deceased's firstborn child, giving her rights and the right to bring her husband along, to the grieving family and relatives who didn't want to see her POS spouse. The only authority to determine the manner of the funeral ceremony was hers. I have a sneaking suspicion that my POS brother-in-law sees himself as the German equivalent of a pimp named Slickback. His funeral attire included a medium blue Stetson hat made of faux fur, sunglasses, and a dark blue polyester pinstripe suit. Not the classy kind, but the mobster kind, along with a walking stick with a phony silver knob. Dressed up in tacky and unsuitable pimp fashion at a funeral. Probably since the mourners at the burial had muzzled him, he needed it to stand out. The actual funeral was held in silence. The POS brother-in-law, however, refused to even shake hands with the mourners or even walk to the cemetery. Instead, he just sat there sneering at them and turned his back on them. Why did he come at all? Following the dissolution of the grieving party, a get-together was organized, although it was held outside of my POS brothers-in-law and POS sister-in-law's immediate family. Unfortunately, my late mother-in-law had an older sister who, knowing that only the immediate family circle was being invited, sent out utterly impromptu and disorganized invitations to everyone in attendance, family and not. Naturally, my POS sister-in-law and her POS spouse felt welcomed, free food. Yes, indeed. Given that these individuals are completely lacking in manners, decency, and sensitivity, my sister-in-law, along with her youngest daughter, felt it was necessary to chastise my husband, her brother, right then and there for not wanting her husband to attend her mother's burial. 20 minutes after the funeral, the grave hadn't even been shoveled, my mother and daughter were screaming like banshees in the middle of the street for everyone to hear, demanding that my husband instantly and unconditionally repent for turning down my POS brother-in-law. Watching this with delight, my POS wannabe pimp brother-in-law took pleasure in the show his wife and daughter were putting on in his honor. He had been missing the narcissistic supply for a long time, and now he finally received it. Mother and daughter were yelling at my husband as they were walking towards the scene. I was also yelling at my husband, telling him that it was crazy for him to let his wife, me, make a fake police report against her, calling her dear innocent husband and family man. The 18-year-old daughter of my POS sister-in-law acted like a piece of shit toward her uncle, my husband, who had just finished burying his mother. She ridiculed him, called him names, and called him insane. My POS brother-in-law had great joy and gratification in watching his daughter. The devil has succeeded in his mission. His wife and daughter are now infused with his venom. For him, the day of the funeral was lovely. My POS brother-in-law has been diagnosed as a sociopath by 2 psychologists, in addition to being a malignant narcissist. Furthermore, I somewhat blame my POS sister-in-law for my mother-in-law's untimely demise, her mother. Due to lung cancer, my mother-in-law had trouble breathing. She had called my POS sister-in-law, her daughter, 3 days prior to her passing, pleading with her to at last apologize to my husband and me for the money she had taken so that the family could finally be at peace. My other brother-in-law had to step in to stop my POS sister-in-law from abusing her mother so badly that she started to breathe so severely from her daughter's harsh verbal abuse that an ambulance had to be called to revive her. She passed away after 2 days.